throw it out at you and hope that some of you might be able to help me. Celine's told me she's gotten us up on video. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. So the story that has me confused, so confused that I actually went back and read it again, thinking I must have missed a really important point. The story is that of the cab driver who, last I heard, was in the hospital having been shot by a passenger he picked up at Three Rivers Casino in the early hours of Thanksgiving, and had taken this man to his home, or a home, in Hazelwood. The passenger had spoken to the driver throughout, asking him questions about where he was from, and asking him if he were Pakistani. And the driver said, no, I'm from Morocco, but I'm an American. I'm an American guy, but the passenger was just focused on the fact that he looked like, I guess, some scary person driving his cab. And the passenger began, according to the driver, to satirize Mohammed and just generally babbling, it sounded like. When he got to the location, the guy gets out of the car, asks him to wait for a few minutes. He goes into his house, and he comes out with a rifle. The cab driver, understandably, drove away. And he heard gunshots, one of which pierced his window and struck him in the shoulder blade, in the back. Okay, so I'm reading the story. That's what the story's telling me. And nowhere, and then he's taken to the hospital. He drives for a while and then gets out of his car and flags down somebody who calls 911, and he gets, okay. So I read the story. I see quotes from Corey O'Connor, who's represents this Hazelwood on city council. I see quotes from somebody from the Islamic Center here. But I see nothing about an arrest. If you know where the guy was dropped off, if you can get a description from, if you have an address in Hazelwood where the guy went in and got a gun, why is this guy not under arrest? Or is he? And if he is, why wouldn't the story say it? There's literally nothing said. My understanding is there is a cabbie who's gotten shot because this sounds like absolutely a hate crime. We know the location of where the shooter went, and there's no arrest. Help me here. Corey O'Connor said, it's not like a TV show where it's solved in 15 minutes. We know how do we not know? I mean, excuse me. If the guy doesn't actually live in that house, somebody in that house knows him, the neighbors would know. I don't know why. How do you not arrest the guy who shot this man in the back? Police have not said whether they believe the driver's race or religion played a role in the shooting. What? But the FBI has been notified and is evaluating the case. Something is here that we're not being told. Something, I'm sorry, does not add up. I'm assuming you agree with me? It says in the articles that members of the Muslim community here in Pittsburgh are not too happy about the fact that the police are not describing the shooting as a hate crime. Well, I'll call it a hate crime. I mean, if you pick up a jerk and he starts asking, hey, what are you? You Pakistani? And then he starts, saying things about your religion. And then he asks you to wait while he goes in the house and comes out with a gun. What exactly would that kind of a crime would that be? Sounds like first-degree attempted murder to me. And it also sounds like a hate crime. And how much sense does it make that when he gets there, he asks the guy to wait because he had to go inside because he left his wallet inside when the driver had picked him up at the casino? At the casino, you wouldn't have your wallet? I hate reading stories that don't tell me anything. They leave me confused. So I'm just saying that's the story that I can't get out of my head because it's so weird. It's so weird. When you get these sort of mealy-mouthed, platitudinous responses from like the councilman, well, this isn't TV, it takes time, blah, 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 and the police aren't saying it's a hate crime, then I'm led to believe that there's something else that they aren't telling us. What? You've told us just enough to get us very confused. So I'm wondering. I'm just wondering. All right. I wish I had good news. Anything good happen over the weekend? You didn't get in a fight with Uncle Ralph. That's good. You scored on Black Friday. Steelers game was a bummer. Packer game was a bummer. Let's see. What else happened? I signed up for Uber in Chicago. Had my first 2 major Uber experiences. Chicago just allowed 2 days ago Uber to pick people up at the airport. And man, did that turn out to be a great idea. Really. Half the price, and a delightful guy named Julius. Normally, I don't like talking to cab drivers, but I don't know what. This Julius was wonderful. And I learned a lot about an immigrant making his way in America. Julius is from the Philippines, and he's over here working. Money. His daughter, his wife are back in the Philippines. There are a lot of people here like that. They're here for one reason, to work and to send money back. What a nice guy he was. But it was interesting to hear from the Uber people that picked me up how they felt about Uber, how it worked for them, whether they thought it was a fair kind of a... I had a split decision with my Uber people. Julius really liked it because it did allow him the ability to work as hard as he wanted It allowed him the ability to give himself the time to go back to the Philippines to see his family, which he was going to do next week. I don't know. So there's that whole new gig economy. I had a hamburger with popcorn on it. I know, Celine, it was delicious. It was one of the best hamburgers I ever had in my life, and I'm a hamburger aficionado since I love hamburgers. Turns out a restaurant opened in my sister's neighborhood just a few days before, and I said, let's go. And it was one of these farm-to-table kinds of restaurants, so everything in it is comes directly from a small area around Chicago. So I think I was eating a Wisconsin cow, is what I was doing. And in fact, one of the burgers had Wisconsin in the title, triple something, I don't know. And they offered for an appetizer cheese curds, which is so Wisconsin and so repulsive. You don't like cheese curds? You do? Just the idea that it's called a curd is enough to turn you off. It sounds like some kind of disgusting byproduct, which I guess it is. What is a cheese curd? In the process of making cheese, you end up with a byproduct called curds. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating her curds and whey. So, curds and whey. Margie saying, oh, the other good thing that happened is the Patriots lost. That's true. That's always a good thing. But I'm not into football anymore. Just want you to know. Okay. No, the burger had so many things that they said were on it. There was this, there was that. And all of the things seemed sort of interesting. Especially the popcorn. I thought, what? Anyway, yeah, the burger came and there was popcorn on it. And I never tasted the popcorn. So it was quite clear that the popcorn was, as Susan said, when I said, there's popcorn on this. She said, texture. It's there for texture. So the popcorn was overwhelmed by all the other flavors, but every once in a while, I guess I got a little kind of a crunchy thing. It was delicious, I'm just telling you. That was like a walk on the wild side. I don't want to talk about anything. Jeez. Okay. Another thing I'm really concerned about, and you know I am, is the gentrification of the East End of Pittsburgh. And now we hear Chris Hines himself is moving back. He's got his eyeballs on a house. Oh, there was a funny thing that said there was a house he wanted in the East End, but he said it was too expensive. If Christopher Hines thinks the house is too expensive, how expensive would that house have had to be? I can't imagine. So it's nice to know he has he puts a limit on things because he could afford the house. He just didn't want to. So now he's going to live in Shadyside. Here's the thing. I want to talk about the fact that the East End, which I guess has always been home to some wealthy Pittsburghers, because I can tell from some of the housing stock. But it's increasingly being gentrified, and everybody's raving about that because it's a sign of economic upturn and investment and progress. And I must say, yeah, but. And I was just about to say I have such a big but. And I've decided not to, although I guess I just did. I have a large, how do I get away from the but thing? I'm talking about a but with one T. You understand? The but is that people who've lived in the East End all their lives are increasingly finding it difficult to afford to live there. We've seen this happen before. It's called gentrification. And what it does is push marginal populations, poorer populations, people with limited incomes. It pushes them out of their homes. I don't like that. One of the things I love about the East End is that on one block you will have these homes that are worth millions, and on the block right next to it you will have homes that are certainly not. Although everything now is going up so high, but places are interesting to live in when they're diverse economically, when there's a mix of people. And what's happening to the East End is creating an environment that only certain people can live in. And frankly, those are not necessarily the people I'm interested in being around. I don't like it. Now, I live in the East End, but I am very unhappy with what's going on there. And I've mentioned a lot of the reasons. Mostly, it's because of the displacement. You always notice who the refugees are, the people with, leaving with barely the clothes on their backs. They're the people who are getting swept away, swept up by forces beyond their control. War, in some instances, but also, in this instance, it somehow is even worse to me. It ain't war that's displacing these people. It's progress. So it's deemed progress to create an environment that pushes low-income people out. I don't call that progress. I call that depressing as hell. And one of the things that made me think about it is I read something in the New York Times today bemoaning what's happened to New York City. New York City, especially Manhattan, but increasingly Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens. I mean, it is becoming a place that only super rich people, if you want to feel like it is to be a refugee, make $120,000 and live in Manhattan. That makes you poor. In New York, as in a lot of places, and Pittsburgh's East End is one of them, gentrification is destroying the environment, the interest. One of the reasons you went to New York, to see that mess of humanity. And now there's just a bunch of friggin' rich people. Blech. So, Paul Krugman, the economist, is looking at this. He doesn't like it either. And he says, so central cities, after decades of decline, are now seeing this investment and uptick. And part of the reason is rich people have decided they want to live in the urban core. They want to be right next to the greatest restaurants. They want to be right near all of the cultural venues. And so when the rich decide to come to town, the town that they had abandoned because there were too many black people in it, now they're coming back and they're pushing the black people out. And the poor people. A lot of poor white people in this town, God knows. So, I don't know. I don't know what we have to do about it, and I don't think we will do anything about it. But in New York City, they're saying nobody but someone in the top 10% of income can live in Manhattan anymore. So that's a rich that's a rich person's place. Didn't used to be that way. And when the only people who can live somewhere are rich, it's a very uninteresting place. I'm just saying, it's too bad. Speaking of the rich, there's a unsettling little piece in today's New York Times about how the rich got together and had a meeting. I'm talking about the 1% here. I'm talking about billionaires. How they got together in Chicago and had a meeting and decided that enough was enough and they were going to take over the government of Illinois. I'm not kidding. And they did. Now, they haven't gotten the legislature yet, but they did get the governorship. And they got it by deciding they were going to put millions and millions and millions of dollars into a campaign in which they could spend, it was bottomless, advertising to put their guy in the governor's office. And they did. You betcha. Now, the people of Illinois who fell for the advertising and put this Republican in as governor, they don't like him. Tough. He came in and started to do exactly what Scott Walker did in Wisconsin, directly to the north. This came about because a billionaire named Kenneth Griffin, hedge fund manager, flat out told his other billionaires that enough was enough and it's time for us to do something. That something happened very quickly with rich people, not only in Illinois, but in California, New York, LA, Florida, and Texas, pouring tens of millions of dollars into the pot he had. He said, we're going to take Illinois back. And what that means is lowering taxes on the rich, going after what's left of unions, and you know the rest of the story. I mean, we've seen this happen. But to see it play out so baldly and boldly, and just a few billionaires can decide to take a state government over now. Because we want to thank the Supreme Court of the United States and other kinds of corruptions of our politics. When the rich decide to take their money and turn that money into political power in such an obvious way. I mean, they've always had the ability through backdoor channels to get what they wanted. But to flat out say, this isn't enough, we need our guy in the State House, And in fact, the guy who's now the governor is a good friend of the guy who said, we got to take this back. He installed a friend of his, another private equity executive, relatively poor by the standards of Mr. Griffin. The governor's only worth $500 million. Almost all these guys come from the world of ill-gotten gains, finance, hedge funds. And most of them don't like to be known. They operate largely out of public view, but they are increasingly willing to use their money to reshape government so that it does their bidding even more so than it always has. I mean, I think if I were a rich person, I'd say, man, government's great. No. It's not what they want. And so they are going to use their fortunes to take over government. There's a graph here in the New York Times that just blows you away. It just shows the spending on gubernatorial campaigns in Illinois in the last 15 years. And the one last year that installed the billionaire's boy. Well, here, I'll show you because it's color and maybe it'll show. It's a red bar. You see that long, long red bar? By the way, it turns pink and keeps going almost off to here. That is the increase in spending in the by Republicans. And it's the spending that you can trace back to just a few billionaires. When you have a runaway pot of gold like that, I mean, just look, given how people don't pay much attention, given how people get their information about candidates through TV and advertising and little sound bites, this money means you can take control. They can do that anywhere. The rich, they're now taking over our cities and pushing people out. They're taking over our government and essentially pushing the citizenry out because their money, their free speech, their money is considered perfectly okay. They can use it like this. How is it possible that we allow a few people to take our governments, our state governments, our city governments? And let me tell you also that these people, the 1%, they're overwhelmingly Republicans, of course. So, I don't know. I really don't know what we can do anymore about all that. And listen to this. This is next door in Ohio, another Republican-controlled state. The Republican-controlled Ohio House has passed a bill, get this, that would allow people to carry concealed weapons into daycare centers. Now, why? I mean, you have to ask. Of all the things that a legislator could consider of, import, something, we got to get a handle on this, we got to do something, that somebody would have taken the time to draft this bill And then, unbelievably, it makes its way through all the committees and onto the floor and is passed. The sponsor of this bill said it was because we needed to undo the hardships of people who have licenses to carry. Because the hardship to them is they have to take their guns off before they take their children in to the daycare center or before they pick them up. Such a hardship. Aw, you mean I gotta take my gun off and leave it here? Yeah. Well, we can take care of that for you. We feel your pain. And so the Ohio House has made sure that there will not be a problem. Under the proposed law, citizens would be able to tote their weapons into the daycare center. And what the NRA calls a daycare center, by the way, and calls any other place that we would think is the last place you would want guns, they call these things, do you know this? Victim zones. A daycare center is a victim zone because you know what? None of those kids have guns. And that just makes them sitting ducks. So those kids you're dropping your kid and sticking them in a victim zone? You got to be kidding me. Any place where you can't carry a weapon to the NRA and to increasingly a ton of other lunatics in this country are considered victim zones. Do you know when we think of the Wild West, and you see movies and everybody's shooting all the time and blah, blah, blah. Do you know that in the Wild West, communities increasingly said to people coming into their town, welcome, leave your gun right here. They de-gunned people. Dodge City, which we think of as Dodge City, Kansas, prohibited hidden, loaded firearms because they saw what happened when you didn't. So if we want to go back to the good old days are you don't let people carry around loaded weapons. Too bad those baby killers over at that Planned Parenthood weren't all carrying. The reality is, and it's hard to believe, and if you don't think our country's gone insane, this will do it. Since Newtown, since those little children were massacred, 18 state legislatures have opened up, opened up more and more public places to guns. That was the reaction. The reaction was exactly the opposite of what any sane being. And here's what's telling, of those 18 states that reacted to Newtown like that, 4 of those states in saying, yeah, go ahead, carry your guns into the schools, into daycare centers, into churches, into, any place. But guess where they don't? 14 of those states had an exception. You can't carry your guns into our state legislature. Now, what does that tell you? If these people really believed that guns make you safer, why would they exempt their own workplace? Why? Why? Incredible. Oh, wow. Mike from Philly has sent us a rather lengthy email, I must say, but let's go for it. While looking for an investment property in New York City, my wife and I were shocked. We have a few places in Philly and in Pittsburgh that we rent. Oh, so you own places and you rent them out. You be absentee landlords. We have a few places in Philly and in Pittsburgh, and we wanted to look in New York. It is, all caps, shocking. It is. It is. It's beyond belief. You want a studio apartment that's about 600 square feet. What's 600 square feet? That's 6 by 10. Is that 6 by 10?
No.
I can't do math either. No, that'd be 60 square feet. Okay. So, because it is. You do multiply them. All right. I'm just trying to get a sense of what. Okay. It's small. Studio apartment. 600 square feet. Rent is about $1,800 to $2,000 per month. And that is in a building with no lobby, no security. Because if you had a lobby or if you had security, like a guy at the door, that would raise the rent by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds per month. Prices are creeping towards $1,200 per square foot to buy. So if you want a place that's 300 square feet, which is about the size of a small hotel room, you are looking, if you're going to buy it, at about $350,000. Okay, now that I can get my head around. Okay, a small hotel room, which, by the way, is what you get in New York. A small hotel room, if you wanted to buy it, would cost you $350,000. Oh, God. Well, I'm telling you, so the only people who call Manhattan home are filthy rich. Philadelphia started a great program about 10 years ago, Mike says. The city was depressed, crime was rampant, and people were moving out. The tax base was disappearing, and the city was broke. So they started a tax abatement program. The city assesses a property at its current state. You can then bulldoze it, redo, or rebuild that property, and the tax assessment stays the same for 10 years. Our 2 condos that we bought as an investment to rent in the center city are running us about $15 a year for 10 years. Excuse me? Mike, you lost me. What do you mean $15 a year? That's your property tax? I don't get this. So Anyway, so some in Philly are paying pennies per year on taxes for 10 years, and the city has seen a boom. Our condos are in a very sought-after location called the Gayborhood. Yeah. It is where Mumia killed the police officer, allegedly, in the 80s, and it was a drug and prostitute haven back then. Now it's where everyone wants to live. A realtor told me one time, if you want the best investment for a property, look for 2 types of people. I know this: gays and dog owners. Gays never let property values go down, and dog owners always have to walk their dogs, so there's always someone out. So I guess I'm part of the rich buying property, but we are both liberal Democrats, so I guess that's good. No, it's well known. Anytime gays start moving into a neighborhood, that neighborhood's going up. Because they do it. God bless them. They have this capacity to decorate. Just saying. They have a remarkable sense of style. And they bring that to their homes and their neighborhoods as well. They just look better than other neighborhoods. Mondays are awful, but this one's particularly awful, isn't it? I feel like calling it a day. There's something also here that I saw. This is over a week ago, I think, and it upset me in a way. And then I saw that the Post-Gazette actually did an editorial on it today, which had the same reaction that I did. So I know I'm not alone. Not that I always like to be where the PG editorial board ends up, but has to do with a little kid who built the clock. Remember that kid? Built the clock in a box or something. Ahmed. Little Ahmed. And he went to school in Texas to show, because he was so proud of it. And he ended up in handcuffs. Because they were concerned that he'd made a bomb. Because I guess it looked a little like, if it looked like a timer and a this and that in a box. And of course, he looks like a terrorist because he's a Muslim. So this sweet little kid brings his clock, and all hell breaks loose. And after the appalling actions of the school and the police, the outpouring of sympathy and support for this kid was amazing, was it not? Even the president tweeted, "Looks like a cool clock. Want to bring it to the White House?" So there was immediate pushback, telling the school and the cops, "You really screwed up here." And so Ahmed ends up at the White House, and Ahmed ends up touring Google and all these universities that he said he hoped he could go to. And what? We got a call? We have a call. Hello? 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 Hello, hello? Yes, we don't. Okay, Mike just wrote me back and said, yeah, that's our property tax. $15 a year. Jeez. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought that was some kind of a what? So your property tax is $15 a year on properties that are now bringing lots of money into you. Yeah. See, you make the richer happy, and good things come. How come we never get tax rebate? How come I don't? How come poor people don't? I guess they get a little bit. I don't know. Damn it. So anyway, the kid got all this stuff, and America showed that it was not, filled with hate and blah, blah, blah. And it ended up, I thought, a really happy ending. Then we start hearing things like the father has, what was the country that he ended up? Qatar? Well, I know he ended, no, I think it's Qatar. Oh. I think it's called Qatar. Okay. Yeah, but I thought he had been a presidential candidate in another country. So they went to visit no, you think it's all Qatar? But anyway, they had a nice little picture taken with this total despot jerk, maybe in Qatar, I don't know, someplace else. And then they said they didn't feel safe in America, and so they've gone to Qatar to live. And now they're suing the school for $14 million. And, all right. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike from D.C.
Oh, okay. Hi.
That was me that called before, but for whatever reason, it just went click, click, and
Okay.
there was nobody there.
Okay.
I know you were joking about gays make the neighborhood better because of our decoration,
Yes.
but it's not really that.
What is it?
It's that, one, we don't have to worry about schools. So we can move in with a really bad school district, and it doesn't matter to us.
As much. I mean, more and more gays do have children.
That's my point that I'm about to make. As soon as now that we have kids, that's going to change.
Uh-oh.
And now it also doesn't matter so much to us is because we're two guys, so we don't have to worry about the little woman getting in and out of the car at night carrying groceries because we're two guys. And
you're not as afraid of a physical attack.
Right. We're less likely to get raped or whatever because there are two of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those things, and then, we're good with $1. So we look at the neighborhood and we say, wait, we can live 6 blocks away and buy this house that we can fix up and make great, and in a few years it's going to be worth this much. Then we can do that because we didn't have the other constraints that heterosexuals have.
Do gays end up gentrifying themselves out of neighborhoods? Do you know what I mean?
Are there gay people who have to move too because they can't afford it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know those people. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
And once it becomes gentrification, though, it isn't just the gays. We're there way before gentrification.
Right. You're the ones who stake out a place and say, this can work. And anyone who's smart sees you do it, and that's when people should buy property. But, yeah.
And it's for those financial reasons, not just because we can make a house look pretty, which we can, but it's also because we spend money. The money I spent on my house, a heterosexual family couldn't do that because they have a kid to go through school, and they have to buy 2 cars, and they have to have this, and they have to have that. I can put $100,000 into my house because I don't have those other things.
Okay, but increasingly you're saying that's not going to work anymore since gays are going to be the same as any other couples in terms of family, children.
Right. And there's another thing that's going to change that too, and that's something called Grindr. Do you know what Grindr is?
I think I do.
It's an app on your phone where you
Yes.
can locate a gay guy within 20 feet.
Yeah, so explain why somebody would, and how's that going to change anything?
Because we had to be in a gay ghetto in order to identify ourselves, in order to get laid. Sorry for being so crude. No. But all of our gay bars and everything were in like a ghetto. DuPont Circle in D.C., Castro Street in San Francisco, the Village in New York are good examples.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we have this technology where on our phone we can locate the closest guy around us, we don't have to congregate in a ghetto in order to find somebody else like us.
Jeez. So don't you think, though, Grindr is something that's like, it's dangerous? How do you know just because somebody's gay doesn't mean it's somebody you want to have sex with?
That's true, but
what?
You could say that about any site on the internet. Isn't it dangerous meeting someone on J?
Yeah, J-Date.
J-Date. It's no more dangerous than going to a gay bar, getting a drink with a guy, and going home with him.
Okay.
Right, because he can murder you, he can murder you in your house if you picked him up at a bar, versus if you met him on Grindr.
This is true. This shows how out of it I am.
Those are the reasons,
yeah.
and they're all economic, why it's good to follow a gay family into a neighborhood.
Okay.
And we throw great parties, and you'll probably get invited.
That's right. And good food, everything. Well,
See?
I'll tell you. I mean, so we should have an app that allows us to find a gay person so we'll know where to live.
Yeah.
Okay. Show me the biggest concentration of gay people in a moderate, a moderate price neighborhood, and then you'll know that's a great neighborhood.
Well, sort of. Show me a bad neighborhood.
Okay.
Close to a somewhat trendy neighborhood, like within a 5-mile radius.
Okay.
And then that's probably where the gentrification is going to go. Because D.C. is a perfect example. So DuPont Circle, which has been in the heyday of gay culture for the past 30, 40 years.
Right.
Then I moved here, and I lived on 15th and S as in Sam Street, and I couldn't make a right to go out of my house onto 14th Street because it was bad. I mean bad like
really
gun
bad.
shooting and
Yeah.
murders, bad.
Yeah, bad.
Now, 14th Street, they have cafes on the street and tables and chairs and people eating outside.
Because
I've only been here for 15 years.
That's what you did, huh? You took the street. Well.
And then, so we moved from DuPont, then we moved over toward 14th Street, which is now called Logan Circle. Okay. And Logan Circle was popular for a while. And then we kept moving southwest because southwest was the really poor area.
Yeah, but so
now that rule.
So are you gays shoving black people out of their homes?
Yes.
It's not going to help.
Yeah,
it's not going to help.
We're the canary in the mine.
You're not helping, black homophobia.
No, I mean, they hate us anyway. But for us, it's what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to stay in DuPont where it's too expensive?
No.
Or move 2 neighborhoods over, buy a place, and, have the value increase?
What it shows is that as people living their own lives, doing things that for them make sense, there's no way that doesn't, everything we do, every choice we make has an impact on somebody else that we're not even, thinking about. It's true, huh? And I mean, in the aggregate.
Then restaurants like us because we spend money. Mm-hmm. So it isn't just that we come into the neighborhood, it's we come into the neighborhood and spend money.
I know. That's why any city that wants to
because
be
we don't have,
great has to have gays. Yeah. Okay, well.
So I think that, like you said, I think that's going to change.
Yeah, I think it will too. Too bad. Why can't we go back to the good old days when you guys couldn't get married and all of that?
In 79 or
yeah, right,
somewhere around there, I'm watching TV, and there was the Pride Parade on San Francisco.
Yeah.
And, I was all of 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's where I can go and move and be gay.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have a word for it. I had never seen anybody that was like me.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole bunch of people in Castro Street in San Francisco, and I can move there.
Yeah. How wonderful that was for you.
Yeah, that I wasn't alone.
Right. Well, thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Lesson 202.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you very much, Mike.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Catching up with emails. Henry writing about living in New York. My daughter works in Manhattan and lives in Brooklyn. Oh, that's going too. I mean, Brooklyn. She lives with 2 other girls. All 3 pay $1,000 each per month for a spacious but old and worn apartment. I visited her apartment once, and I'm heartsick she's living like that, but she seems to think it's wonderful, so what do I know? Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, you're young, but it is true. It is rare for a young person to have their own place. You have to have roommates. You cannot afford to live by yourself. On taxes, we have an emailer saying, remember that $15 tax is only for 10 years. At the end of that, it will go up. Well, I understand that, but you get a 10-month, free ride. And clearly, yes, it promotes investment and development. Our taxes will probably be about $500 per condo after the 10 years. Oh, this is Mike writing back. $500 after 10 years. That seems cheap, too. But it's worked because now the downtown area is vibrant, safe, and a sound investment. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this Ahmed kid. Well, so it's not enough he gets to see the president and he gets, Google says you can have a job and MIT says you can come to college and all of that. And now they're trying to shake down the, I have to tell you, my sense was, just, it's not his fault. I just don't think I like his father. That's my guess. I don't think a family friend told the Washington Post, everyone in the country and around the world believes this has been a wonderful experience for Ahmad's family. And in some ways it has. But now they're settled in Qatar, they've realized they're tremendously traumatized. Well, all right. But whose choice was it to go to Qatar? And if they don't like it in Qatar, then come on back. Huh? I don't know. The PG had the same reaction I did. They said that it's unfortunate that what happened to him was unfortunate, but America embraced Ahmad and his family in its wake, and their departure and then subsequent demands make them look like opportunists or worse. Well, certainly ungrateful. Really. But maybe, they lived in America for a while and they saw that the American way is that if you have anything negative happen to you, that is an opportunity to sue somebody. Now, you learn that living in America, too. So it could well be that they thought, hey, the American system will allow us now to say that we have been horribly damaged by this experience so that we ended up literally being refugees again. Refugees who pal around with presidents of various countries. Despot here, Barack Obama there, whatever. And that we can make some money off this. So, I don't know. Depressing. Some people are starting to believe he did it they all did it on purpose. The conspiracy theorists saying that so the kid thought, okay, the father said, why don't you build a clock and it'll look like a bomb, and why don't you take that to school? And I don't think so, though. It is, although everybody is so hyper nervous and anxious right now. I was going to say, if a white kid had brought that clock to school, would the white kid have ended up in handcuffs? I don't think so. Although, in some schools, might. They seem so ludicrously skittish. You try saying that. I'm going to do it again. Ludicrously skittish. Wait. One more time. Ludicrously skittish. There, I did it. Okay. No, I don't think we need to do any of that. And anyway, it's noon, and I'm sorry for what I thought was a dull show. But, you can't bat 1,000. You just can't. It's not considered. I mean, wow, 300. I love baseball for giving us all a real break on what success looks like, because batting 300 is considered really good. So that means I can screw up about 3 shows a week and still be considered good at what I do. Yeah? I'll try better tomorrow, I think. Yeah. Toodle-oo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.